Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Joining the panel this week as well is your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Now we got a winter break, guys, so I'm excited to be back.
Welcome back to the show. And joining the panel, we have a special surprise for everybody. He is playing a show this Friday night at Ransom Steele Tavern, all the way from Austin, Texas, from Fair City Fire in studio. It's Brian Wolff.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back to the show, Brian.
It's good to be here.
Folks, let's talk some sports. Hashtag it up with us. Hashtag ODPH. Pad, why don't we kick it off with those locks and leaps, shall we?
Sure. Looking at my lock, I chose the Minnesota Vikings to defeat the Detroit Lions, and boy, did they ever. 27-9 was the final score. Good game from Kirk Cousins. 21 of 28 on the passing game for 253 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook had a good game on the ground for 16 carries for 73 yards, no touchdowns. And then Kyle Rudolph, holy cow, doing my fantasy team proud. 9 catches, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Dare I say that Hail Mary that was thrown to him for 44 yards?
Woof. How they pulled that off.
Cousins and company are clicking at the right time. And, I mean, obviously, I know this is a sore subject for Brian.
Yeah.
Him being the Green Bay Packer fan in the room. But
It's a little rough over here.
It is, but, you know, I'm trying to find some good way to segue because we'll get to the Green Bay game a little later in the segment. But for the for the Vikings, rather, how surreal is it to see the Bears and the Vikings finally catch up to the Packers?
It's not great. It's not great over here. It's painful. But you know what? Yeah, there's always next year, you know?
Fair enough. Fair enough. I know Soundguy Galore JR is sitting at home, and every time during a game, I'll just get a random skull text sent, and it's just like, you got to get to the playoffs first, buddy. You're not there yet, but it's close. So.
Yeah, don't count your eggs before the hatch.
Absolutely, because the NFC is becoming just a battle for that last playoff spot.
Yeah.
The problem is that tie right now that's going to come back to bite them.
Yeah. And who would have thought at the beginning of the year that the ties would be playing so much of a factor?
Huge factor. I mean, just across, down Pittsburgh there, that tie now really biting them. So it's like,
and especially with Cleveland, if Cleveland hadn't tied with Pittsburgh at the beginning of the year, they'd be fighting for the division title right now.
Yeah, you got to win these games. And I mean, I understand that the overtime rule is probably a little bit controversial with, being the fact that they can end in a tie, but you got to win these games when you're winning them, especially the way Minnesota was.
Let's say the wild thing about this Vikings-Detroit Lions game, there was a Matt Castle sighting. Matt Castle is still in the league, made an appearance for the Detroit Lions, 5 of 11. In there for a little bit of garbage time, but, Matt Castle's still around.
Yeah, it still matters. I mean, that's the thing about it. But for the Vikings, though, they're definitely going into the final stretch here on a winning note, and that's what they need to do. And for the Detroit, though, I mean, obviously the season wasn't what they were expecting.
No.
But it's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, obviously it's the first year under a new head coach. And they have been in every game for the most part. They haven't really been blown out. It hasn't been, they've been a walkover team by any means.
No.
And especially in their division, which how competitive the NFC Central got. Or the NFC North,
like overnight.
Yeah, overnight. I mean,
it's nuts.
It's just crazy, and just how everybody's just finally caught up, because the Packers were running that division for so long. Not to throw salt on the wound, Brian.
No,
I get not come out of the way.
I wish we got Khalil Mack.
I think a lot of teams wish they got him right now.
Yeah, I think that
Packers had a good shot at it, and they passed it up, I think. So.
And how bad is that coming back to haunt them? And
how
how thankful is Chicago now?
Right?
Yeah.
What a move.
Yeah, brilliant move.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we'll have to wait and see what happens from there.
Mm-hmm. Jumping over to my leap, I chose the Seattle Seahawks to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, which they did in a thrilling game. 38-31 was the final score. Russell Wilson, 18 of 29 on the in the air, for 271 yards, 3 touchdowns. Chris Carson, great game on the ground, 27 carries for 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Doug Baldwin, my God, that man was making catches I could not believe. 7 catches for 126 yards and 1 touchdown.
How crazy is it that Seattle has seemingly come back from the dead and is now they're got to be one of the teams that if you're not paying attention to them right now, they're going to completely roll over you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that this is a team that, they come from nowhere to all of a sudden, have that rough stretch in the beginning of the year, now bouncing back and playing strong going into the playoffs, and then playing the number one team in the West, one of the best teams in the NFL right now, to come back and play that game at home the way that they did, it just shows that Seattle's on the way up right now.
Well, and somebody brought up that first half struggle. I can't remember who it was in postgame, but they brought up what Richard Sherman said in the offseason. Seattle's lost themselves. They're like, what do you say to that? And whoever it was like, no, you look at our early season struggles. We didn't really know who we were. We kind of lost ourselves, but we made some corrections and we found our way.
Yeah, they just didn't have an identity, whether it was, they couldn't run the ball or Russell Wilson didn't have time to throw the ball. I mean, they're kind of notorious for having one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah.
And, Wilson dropping back on a 3-step drop, he automatically has pressure on him. And, they've never really had that, Pro Bowl wide receiver. And I know Baldwin played a great game, but, I mean, when you sit here and you look at, their depth chart and you look at Doug Baldwin as the number one guy, does that really strike fear?
Not really.
in your secondary? Not really. So the fact that they do it as a team, and that defense has always been good. Now, they've had ups and downs this year, but Seattle's defense has always been, pretty good, and they're playing that way right now in games that they need to win.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely turned it on at the right time, and especially, like you were talking about their defense, obviously losing Richard Sherman has got to be just like a different culture shock to them.
Mm-hmm.
To see them stepping up and really hanging with teams that have been putting up points on the year. I mean, you look at Kansas City, you look at Carolina, you look at other teams that really have these high-powered offenses, and Seattle is hanging with them. And I don't want to say they're shutting them down, but they're definitely keeping themselves in the games they need to. And to go this is a big statement win, I think, in at least in my opinion, that if you shut down Kansas City, who has just been putting up offensive numbers left and right.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other team doing better, I think, is the Saints.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I mean, now you switch and talk about a Kansas City team right now that has 2 straight losses.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the playoffs, and they have Oakland coming up on a Sunday game that they don't really need to win to get in the playoffs. So, I mean, do you sit the starters just to be safe and go into the bye week?
Right.
Or do you play them and try and get some momentum back?
Right. I mean, I'm looking at NFL.com, and they've got their story up with all the potential playoff scenarios for those scenarios that are still in play, and Kansas City's one of them. I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different scenarios just for them alone on how they can, clinch the division title and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. There's 4 there. They've got another 3 scenarios for them just clinching the division and a first round bye, and then the final 2 are just for them getting the division title. So they could end up with the division title and home field advantage, or they could end up with the division title and playing on wild card weekend.
Yeah, I mean, personally to me, I would say that if I, as Andy Reid, a guy who's been there before, I would probably play this week and go for the win and try and close out the season well and go into that bye week, hopefully, with a win instead of sitting everybody and, throwing it up as, whatever happens, because you want to go into the playoffs playing well. The Giants have showed that. The Patriots have shown that, you want to go in with momentum and not, regressing.
Let me ask this question to Brian.
Yeah, what's up?
If you're the coach of the Chiefs, do you sit or do you start?
Now, let me throw this a little bit because this might influence your decision. Now, they are at home against the Oakland Raiders.
You got to put in your starters. You got to try to win. I don't know. It's the momentum thing is huge going into the playoffs. I mean, it's like you go in kind of on a downturn where you've lost some games in a row, and I don't know. The rest isn't as important, I don't think, as the momentum. So,
I definitely agree with Brian. You definitely have to play your starters, because if you don't play the starters and you have a potential to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which for Kansas City and how loud that stadium can be is huge. That's a difference maker for that entire team. If you have that potential to get home field advantage and play, eat that home cooking, as they say, and you can get it, and you don't because, we want to rest our starters, and all of a sudden you're sitting on wild card weekend and you got to go travel. Man, that's going to do something in the locker room.
Yeah, especially Kansas City at home is a different team. Completely different
team.
Need
that barbecue.
Yeah, Arrowhead's a tough place to play. So
yeah, and I don't think they want to travel anywhere, because if they have to go to Foxborough,
no, forget it. Especially come wintertime, having to play in Foxborough, no way.
Real cold.
Yeah, and especially them at home, like I say, it's a totally different team. And I think for Kansas City, though, they have to play the starters just obviously losing 31 or 38-31 isn't a crucial loss.
No.
It's not like they lost 38-3.
Yeah, but it's how they lost, though, that's the killer.
I agree. So I think that they do have to get back on the field and just get back on the horse, as they say, so to speak, and ride into the sunset. They need a strong performance this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything less will do justice.
Right. They don't need to exactly blow Oakland out of the building, but they need to show up.
They need a 10-point win. In my opinion, they need to win by 10.
Yeah, I mean, last time it was only a 7-point differential between Oakland and Kansas City, so I would agree. They need to have a statement win.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to watch on Sunday.
P.S. I miss Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
I'm so bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's played well, huh?
Yeah, he is, man.
Oh, man. I'm just waiting until we get to the Packer game. It's coming soon, though.
I'm just getting sad over here.
Yeah. Coach, what you got?
All right, so for my leak, I started with those Cleveland Browns, baby.
Baker
Let's
Mayfield.
go.
In Baker, we trust.
The Hugh Jackson stare, hashtag it, is becoming a thing. I mean, I watched Hard Knocks, as we talked about. I don't understand the animosity that he has for him, but my God,
I do.
It's real.
No, I do, because I know somebody who's a Cleveland Browns fan who watched Hard Knocks religiously, and how Hugh Jackson would not give Baker any first-team reps at all.
Yeah, but he's
I
just
don't blame
protecting
him.
his investment. I mean, the guy was there to try and win, and they brought in Tyrod,
No,
who they were trying to play.
Trust me, I get it. I get the animosity. I get, he wanted to start from week 1, but realistically, he's a rookie. You got to get the feet wet before you toss him in the deep end to swim.
Well, Arian,
But
his whole thing is the chip that he's had on that shoulder. We talked about that in the draft show. We talked about that all year long. He needs it on there. So I mean, I get it, Pat, that he does that. But my God, it's real.
It's real, but for Cleveland winning 26-18 and Mayfield throwing 284 and 3 touchdowns, however he's doing this, I mean, if this is rallying the team, I have no issue with this.
I think my favorite thing out of that entire game was it came out a couple of days after the game where Baker was mic'd up during the game, and he was going. It was the huddle right before the Jarvis Landry had the 63-yard pass.
Yeah,
and in the huddle, Mayfield's like, I'm mic'd up. I'm guaranteeing this is going to work. This is going to work. And then Landry throws that 63-yard bomb, and you just hear Baker go, oh, my God, it worked. Oh, my God, it worked.
I mean, this is why I wanted him on the Giants. This is why I said it all year. I love the moxie. I love it. I mean, your team rallies behind that. And these Cleveland Browns players clearly show that they will play for him.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what you needed. Like, we've talked about this in previous episodes. And, Brian, let me get your thoughts on Baker Mayfield. What do you think his impact to Cleveland is now?
I mean, I love it. I love that the Browns have a leader now and someone to look up to and stuff, and it's great to have that sort of talent.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I fully agree, because now obviously, I know I'm switching sports for a second, but without LeBron there, who was the face of Cleveland sports for so long, Mayfield has embraced the city, and he has now given them an identity.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it's something they sorely needed, especially the Browns, because if your team culture is we're never going to win, we're always going to be the laughing stock of the league, and you have a guy that comes in there and says STF about this. He just wants to come in there and say, no, we're stopping any of this nonsense. We're going to come in there and we're going to establish we are a team, and we can win, and we can win for years. And everybody's buying into it.
Yeah, he's backing it up, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he's only had a couple bad games, but but everything.
He's a rookie.
Yeah, he's a rookie. I mean, you can't expect him to come in there and be the next Peyton Manning out the gate. I think that's foolish for anybody too.
And the whole thing is started with Dorsey and the culture change that he brought in the moment he walked in the door. I mean, he made a statement that draft night, where it was very clear in the path and direction that this team was going to take. And, Chubb, obviously, at running back has been killer. That trade, at first, everybody, probably when they traded the running back to Jacksonville, everybody was probably a little questioning, making that move. But it seemed to have paid off because Nick Chubb's been a beast back there. And, I mean, firing Hugh Jackson when they did was, definitely a controversial call. But Greg Williams has shown that he can be a head coach still. So now with this offseason, it's like Dorsey's really got, some interesting decisions to make, because do you bring back Greg Williams after the way that they've played, or do you try to actually search for a coach that is going to be there for the long term?
Boy, that's a good question.
That's a hard question. That's a hard decision.
It is, Because, I mean, you got Baker, and like I said, he's doing the STF talk, the Stop That Funk, and he's trying to build that culture up. And if he's happy with that coach, do you upset him by bringing in somebody else that he might not mesh with right away? Dare I say, I know the hot name going around was Mike McCarthy,
right?
Formerly of Green Bay.
Yeah.
This is a very hard question to ask.
I think you almost have to have Baker in the room during any interviews. Because if he's going to be the face of your franchise going forward, I don't know if they can do that or if they can pull it off or they can make it happen or whatever because of like bargaining agreement or whatever else. But I almost feel like you have to have, for a decision of this magnitude, if they do end up deciding to go, okay, we're going to keep Greg Williams on as, whatever coordinator, but we're going to bring in a new head coach. I feel like you almost have to have Baker in the room.
You would, but I tell you what, that's also a scary slope to walk because if you're giving a rookie that much power over your organization,
that's true.
That's a very scary precedent to establish. The one good thing about having Dorsey as your GM is he knows what to do about building a team, I think he'll get the right guy in. He'll ask Mayfield's opinion, obviously,
right?
But I think overall he's going to get in somebody that he feels is going to be the best for the franchise. If Greg Williams can finish strong, you definitely have to factor his name in the competition.
I mean, to me, the head coach is already there. I think you just stick with Williams and let this thing go because he's clearly shown that not only will these players play for him, but they'll execute and win.
And that's what you need in Cleveland, absolutely. Coach, what else you got?
Well, for my leap, I chose those Atlanta Falcons going against the lonely Carolina Panthers, who would have seen this coming going into this year, how poorly Carolina's played.
Yeah, no kidding.
Carolina has just fallen apart. I mean, it's tough, and especially we talk about teams that are just polarizing and falling apart. Atlanta is one that I dare I say, are they still feeling the effects of the Super Bowl that happened?
I feel like at this point you can't even say the Super Bowl hangover is still a thing. Like if it was like the immediate year after, and we're at this point, okay, yeah, sure, you might have a discussion, but we're almost 2 full years removed.
They're just
it's crazy the way that the drop off with the level of talent that they've had post that Super Bowl. I mean, I absolutely think that the Super Bowl has had something to do with that culture that's been in Atlanta right now because it was almost like coming back from horrible situation and having some sort of like PTSD from it. Like they just haven't been able to perform. And this is a team that is deep with talent.
Yeah, every offensive position they have immense talent. This is not somebody that they have like a couple decent players. They have superstars.
Yeah, and their defense isn't. I mean, it's not great, but it's good enough.
They've had injuries,
sure,
but I agree with you. They're ones that you watch on paper and you're like, how are they not running away with this division?
Well, I mean, at least or being there with New Orleans.
Yeah, because the Saints have been a big surprise in my opinion this year.
Could it be the loss of their offensive coordinator from that season, Kyle Shanahan, is bigger than we thought?
That's a good question.
Because you got to look at it. The year they went to the Super Bowl, and obviously they lost and blew the lead against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They had Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan then got a head coaching job. Where was it? I think it was San Francisco.
Yeah.
Ever since he left and went to San Francisco, they just offensively have not been the same. I mean, I'm looking at the stats here, ESPN.com. Matt Ryan, quarterback then, quarterback now. They've got Mohamed Sanu still at wide receiver. They've still got Julio Jones at wide receiver. Not much has changed on the offensive side of the ball.
No, they have Calvin Ridley too as a rookie, who is in contention for Rookie of the Year. I mean, you have to throw his name in there.
Well, I mean, it was the second half of that Super Bowl that when they decided to come out and still throw the ball instead of trying to milk the clock a little bit, that obviously Kyle Shanahan then ends up leaving anyway, and it was like, why not run the ball? So everybody questions him as an offensive coordinator. Everybody coaches the head coach as far as not asking why are we not running the ball. So I mean, it was a whole thing, and it's it's weird. You would feel like a team post Super Bowl would be able to bounce back, but the way that it happened. Maybe just shell shock these guys so much that it just doesn't make sense.
Any thoughts on Atlanta there, Bri?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a post Super Bowl thing. I don't know. These guys are pros. They gotta get up and go. I don't know. I don't know if you can use that as an excuse to me.
I give them a slide like the first half of last year because there is still like even as a fan like the 2 times the Giants have beaten the Patriots in the Super Bowl, it's been in the back of my mind. Like I've thought about it a couple times.
True, yeah.
But you get to a certain point where it doesn't really bug you that much, and you don't really think about it the same way you did when it first happened.
Yeah,
we're at this point. It changed the culture, but still, I don't think it should be the primary reason.
Yeah.
It's
No,
something
God, no.
more.
Yeah,
If it's
for
still
sure.
dragging you down, you need therapy or something. Like you need to go see somebody.
It's
Well,
got.
God, I'll tell you that beatdown that the Giants had at the Ravens' hand. I mean, I remember Kerry Collins even saying
yeah.
that he refused to watch the game, like as far as film review.
Oh, yeah.
because it was so hard to watch
Was
that
it-
it was difficult to even for him to bounce back the next year.
Oh, yeah.
and you could
41
see it in him.
It was
Yeah,
like 41 zip or something like that.
yeah, it was 41-3. Thanks.
Okay.
But it's some of those games it'll hit you in a weird way. And for Atlanta, I mean, granted, they won this one 24-10, and albeit though Carolina didn't have Cam Newton playing, they finally shut him down for the season and his shoulder, which is
Well, and Carolina's another team too. That's like, what's going on there?
yeah. I mean, there's so much, to say it's kind of polarizing for the NFC South because there's so much talent there, and obviously New Orleans is running away with the division.
Oh, God, yeah.
And
I mean, you look at Tampa Bay as probably when we ranked them as the worst team, and then you got Carolina, who probably should have been a 500 ball club. You got Atlanta, who definitely should be a 500 ball club, and then obviously New Orleans, who's come on as strong as they can or as strong as they have. That should be the deepest division in in football right now, and they're just not.
no, I mean, there's a lot of questions they got to ask in that offseason. A lot of questions, and I don't see any clear-cut answers for them to get back in there, but we'll have to wait and see. So getting to my locks and leaps, my lock, I took those LA Rams against Arizona, and boy, did they cover.
Holy cow, yeah, they did.
Especially a new signee who decided to make his impact, and definitely fantasy football owners are very happy to have him on their teams, albeit
Bless his heart.
our Coach Duffy won our fantasy football league due to C.J. Anderson's huge day, 167 yards and 1 touchdown.
I can't remember the last time a player got signed because the starter was injured or questionable, could go, and he made such an impact right out the gate.
I heard that the fans were chanting you still got it chant. I heard that you still got it.
Maybe, but I tell you what, winning 31-9, and granted, Arizona, I mean, we talk about teams that got to have a lot of questions for next season.
Arizona's a mess right now.
They are.
Talks of firing the entire coaching staff going on right
Oh.
now. Ugh.
It's wild. It is absolutely wild to see. But for the Rams, though, I mean, Jared Goff had a decent day, 216 and a touchdown. Robert Woods, 89 yards and a touchdown receiving. The Rams are hanging in there, especially Todd Gurley on the shelf, which is the smart move to sit him for
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
as much as kind of Anderson's putting up these type of stats. You don't
Right.
have anything to worry about.
Well, there's talking not playing him this week too, which would make total sense to me.
I
be the
don't
smartest
blame
move.
him. I don't blame him at all. I mean, because they're NFC West division champs. They're in the playoffs. You look at their playoff scenario for this weekend. They clinch a first round bye with a win or tie, or if Chicago loses or ties. So if they win. First round bye. Done. You don't need him for that.
I mean, if I'm a Rams team, I'm not really probably too worried about the divisional game. Unlike the Kansas City, where it's the exact opposite. They have 2 straight losses going into this week.
Yeah.
LA's playing on the up right now. Gurley hurt. You definitely don't want to risk that. The last thing you want to do is lose a Jared Goff situation. So, for them, I would definitely probably just go into this weekend and let it be what it is, and let the chips fall. New Orleans clinched the number 1 seed, so you're
Right.
going to the Superdome regardless
Right.
of what
Yeah.
happens.
Right. And I mean, I'm looking at their schedule for this final week. They are at home against the 49ers.
and division
Yeah.
games, like you say, you never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, if there was the number 1 seed still out there, I would say you got to go for it. But with New Orleans having it wrapped up, just let it go.
Absolutely. And we got to go into my leap, which
Oh boy.
Brian has been waiting all segment to talk about. Green Bay went to the Jets
Yeah.
and definitely had a shootout,
Yeah.
44-38. Aaron Rodgers, 442 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I mean, where else do you want to go from there? I mean, a great win for the Packers, albeit though it is what it is this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Rodgers played. I know there was some talk of, maybe sitting him, but it's going to be up to him, But I'm glad that he played, and he played so well. It's just tough. I don't know what they're going to do in the offseason. It's just kind of like, the whole Jimmy Graham thing didn't work out like they were hoping. I was really hoping he would just tear it up, and he's been kind of,
Yeah, I mean, this has just been like a very polarizing season for the Packers.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think the expectations are, well, you have Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback in the league.
Right.
Arguably.
Yeah.
So, obviously, and he's pulled out, bad teams and made them good.
Yeah.
Single-handedly. In this season, obviously, everybody remembers that miraculous come from behind game to open up the season against Chicago,
Right.
where we all thought his leg was broken, and he's hobbling around there throwing
That was
touchdowns.
insane.
Yeah, and one of the best performances you've ever seen.
Gutsiest performances,
Yeah.
for sure.
And the Clay Matthews, roughing the passer call.
Yeah, and
That was part of that game too.
And then the infamous tie game with the Vikings, as we talked about earlier, and how bad, and just kind of seeing the season spiral out of control. I mean, obviously, to see them come back and obviously this week have a win under their belts is a huge deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially coming from behind, in overtime, and him throwing that 16-yard pass to Devontae Adams. So, I mean, it's a big thing for them if they want to try getting free agents to come to Green Bay and saying, hey, we didn't have a good year this year. We're going to be better next year. And then obviously they got a lot of questions they want to ask for next season. Is there anybody that you're thinking of, like, you want to see as a head coach for Green Bay next season? Obviously, Mike McCarthy is gone, but do you want somebody that's more offensive-minded, defensive-minded? Like, what do you think is going to take for the Packers to get back to prominence?
I mean, I would love to see the defense get better. I would love a coach that can bring in, just a more defensive mindset. I mean, obviously, we're going to have the offense because Rodgers is still going to be on the team. So I would love somebody to kind of shore up the defense and have a better strategy and all that stuff, because it's just been something that's been a weakness with the Packers for a long time,
Now, there is talk that Rodgers wants to stick with Philbin, that he wants to keep him there. So I've heard that. Yeah.
But, I don't know how much the Packers can really put into that,
Yeah.
Rodgers near the end of his career, it's like, the end of the day, the Packers are going to do what the Packers are going to do, I think.
It's actually the exact opposite of what they got going on in Cleveland right now. They've got an interim head coach that's won 4 straight games, and then you've got an interim coach that's had 2 wins and 2 losses, so 500. But then you have your quarterback who is already outspoken enough as is, with Mike McCarthy being replaced. So it's like, if he's requesting Philbin, do you almost have to listen to him? Unlike Cleveland, where if Baker Mayfield says, "Hey, I want Greg Williams," do you have to listen to that?
I don't know.
It's a tough situation, but I think with whoever they get in for Green Bay, I think they know what they're going to get with Aaron Rodgers.
I think so.
So I don't think that if they're a defensive guy, I don't think they're going to even tamper with the offense. And I think if it's an offensive guy, they're going to go in and go, okay, what's your philosophy? Here's mine. Let's exchange and go from there. So obviously the Packers have got some work to do in the offseason.
Yeah, they do.
Especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially with Khalil Mack and the Bears now becoming the dominant force that they are. The Vikings are still going to hang in there. I mean, it's going to be something to watch. And I mean, as for the Jets, I mean, it was a great game for Sam Darnold, and like we say, the rookie class this year has definitely been making some noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been solid. I mean, everybody had a lot of reservations on what was going to come out and how these quarterbacks were going to play, but for the most part, I mean, outside probably Rosen, I think all the quarterbacks have played well.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley looked like the right pick for the Giants now at this week and at this point, and everybody's playing. I mean, Quentin Nelson's a Pro Bowl. A rookie guard is a Pro Bowl player. That's just crazy.
And I mean, Nelson has been such a huge asset to Indianapolis and making their run, because now that they have to win and get in for the Sunday night football game on NBC against Tennessee.
Win or go home.
Tell you, it's going to be an exciting final week of the NFL. But let us know what you thought about this past week. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts on the NFL games? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Kacharik from the band 607, Autopilot Off, and Walking Distance, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and there is a very, 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 very big UFC card this weekend.
You don't say.
Not without some controversy, though.
Of course.
You don't say.
Wait. There's UFC cards without controversy?
Surprisingly.
Oh, okay.
But this one definitely made some headlines as we were about to record.
Yep.
UFC 232 was scheduled to take place in Las Vegas.
Yep.
The main event fight was John Bones Jones coming back to the light heavyweight division after being off for an extended period of time to fight the one and only Alexander Gustafsson.
Arguably the first person to really put a chink in that armor, if you will, and show, hey, he's not immortal. He's beatable.
Right. It was their first go-around was a highly contested fight. It went to decision.
Yep.
A lot of people thought Gustafsson won. And John came out the winner, though, via the judge's decision. And there has been a very lengthy history with John that he has not been fighting lately. We won't get into the details of that.
We've discussed it on other shows.
Yeah, we've discussed it on previous episodes, so you can check those out. But what really came to steal the headlines this week, and it was kind of wild, is the fight has now been moved to Los Angeles for Saturday because John, if the story is correct, still had remnants of his previous failed substance tests that prevented him from getting a license in Nevada.
Right, and you can find a video from Sports Center where Dana White, and I don't know who the other gentleman was on with him. There was two guys from UFC. One was Dana, somebody else was with UFC. And the way they described what showed up in the sample was the guy said, not Dana, the other guy said, if I were to put a grain of salt on this table and smash it 50 million times, that's how small this whatever that was in John's system the first time showed up this time. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a scientist, so I'll take you at your word for this.
Yeah, I mean, it was something wild to hear because obviously due to John's previous history, the minute somebody heard that, everybody was thinking
Positive drug test.
positive, substance abuse test of, some sort of steroids or, what such. Obviously, this one is not due to that. It was remnants of his last test that he took, I believe, in 2017.
Yeah.
So the whole card has now been moved to L.A.
The whole card has been moved to LA, and also I don't remember the acronym for it, but there's something John has signed up for where he's getting double tested.
Yeah, he's signed up for a second alternative drug
Yes.
testing company.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's really definitely trying to prove that he is a clean fighter. So this one obviously stole some headlines for the wrong reasons, but we are still excited about seeing the fight. Nevertheless,
It's a good card.
Well, yeah, luckily we didn't pay for any of the travel or accommodations, so I'm perfectly okay watching the fight in the basement here.
Yeah, if you were a fan that was flying in to Vegas, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of of answers right now. I mean, they are offering ticket refunds for the ticket to the event, but
if you do want to go to the event in LA, they will try to get you in the same seat you would have been in Vegas if you go to LA.
Right,
So,
they're just not going to pay for your flight to take you there or
Yeah.
the hotel for you to stay in.
yeah.
it's a very messy situation to
Right.
say the least.
And the whole reason they were explaining they moved the event from Nevada to California was because basically there just wasn't enough time for it to have a full-blown hearing with Nevada, because Nevada has not been involved with any of John's prior positive drug tests. They don't really know anything about it. They haven't heard the specifics. They haven't heard the details. So basically Nevada went, yeah, there's not enough time for us to have a full-blown hearing about this and then come to a decision if we can issue a license by Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
this all came out Saturday, right?
This is Saturday, Sunday.
Christmas, everything.
So Dana and the UFC turned around, went to California, who was intimately familiar with John's previous drug test. I believe he tested positive out there, so they know the full-blown details. They went to California's athletic commission. California's like, yeah, we'll do it.
Well, he had his license there. Still, he didn't get it revoked.
It
in
was reinstated in California.
Right, so California went, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, which, I mean, it makes sense to do it there. Obviously, it's tough if you're a fan and you were traveling into Vegas. Now, that's a whole different story that we're just not going to get into.
I mean, we don't know the logistics and all that, but sorry.
Yeah, but to see the fight still happen is, I think a good thing at this stage. Obviously, it was your co-main event, because they have a great women's featherweight title fight.
Yeah, they've got a match between Chris Cyborg, the champion, versus Amanda Nunes.
Yes, who's stepping up as the bantamweight champion to fight.
Well, just talk about this from the athlete standpoint. I mean, just think about the fact that you've been training, and now you're peaking, and then, you're making weight cuts and everything, and then all of a sudden, the Saturday before your big event, you find out, the main head card, got suspended and whatever they would have done to back that up. But now everything changes. I mean, really would have thrown off what they did. So if they would have postponed the event, just think about that as a fighter.
Well, and especially you got to figure, as a fighter, they want as few distractions and as few headaches as possible. Now, on top of everything else you got to get ready for, hey, I've got to find flights and hotels for any family members that are coming out.
Well, I bet you 90% of them probably live in the LA area anyway and train out of there. So it's like,
Yeah, I think for a lot of those fighters, I don't think it's going to really affect them so much, but I think it's just everybody around them. I think so, because obviously you got to rework travel accommodations and such. But I think them going into fights and knowing they're still going to have a fight Saturday.
And that's the biggest thing, is that they know that they're peaking and they can still continue to do their training as is.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Saturday is going to be a big fight, and I know that there's a lot of UFC fighters that have been very outspoken about the moving of the card from Vegas to Los Angeles. You can go on social media and find your favorite fighter, and I guarantee you they have a take on it. One way or another.
Somebody has said something.
Yes,
one way or another,
depending on it is. But as we're going to break down the card, let's start with the main card, shall we?
So card is going to open up Chad Mendes versus Alexander Volkanovski in the featherweight division.
Now, Mendes has been off for a while, and he is now coming back. This one should be a very interesting one. Thoughts around the panel about this one?
Mendes all day.
Yeah, I think Mendes is definitely going to pull this one off.
Ken, if you like Mendes, I'm going to go with Mendes as well.
Yes, being the UFC MMA guru of the room right now, that I got a feeling Mendes is going to do it. This one's going to be, I don't think is going to be like a runaway by any means. I could see this being stopped in the third round. It just depends on if Mendes can get his wrestling going, because that is what he's primarily known for.
Yeah.
So if he can definitely get that going, it's going to be a good fight.
Next, you've got Ilir Latifi in the light heavyweight division facing Corey Anderson.
Okay, this one is going to be an interesting one. Latifi, if I'm not mistaken, is a training partner of Gustafsson, or has been a training partner with him in the past.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong on social media. Hashtag ODPH.
Okay.
But him against Corey Anderson is going to be a really interesting fight. Latifi can definitely hang in there. He's had some high-profile fights. He's not going to be, dare I say, shy of the limelight of this card.
No.
Anderson is kind of going to come in there and really kind of impose his striking. So this one definitely is going to go back and forth. I'm going to go with Anderson on this by decision.
Okay.
This is my gut feeling. I think Anderson's striking is just a slight bit better, but if Latifi can get his wrestling going and really kind of push the pressure against the cage and prevent Anderson from getting his striking and his reach going, I think Latifi's got a good shot to win.
Yeah.
But I could see this one definitely going to the decision. I think this one is arguably of everything on the main card. I think this is the one most likely to go to decision.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Latifi by decision. I think there's just going to be a sequence, whatever round it ends up being, where just Latifi just gets that wrestling game going, as you're saying, and he's just rolling. And he just there's a good long stretch where it's just like, okay, yeah, he's winning this fight. So I think it's going to be Latifi by decision.
Definitely could be.
I'm going to lean wrestler as well. I'm going to go Latifi. Okay. I feel like wrestlers right now just are having a real comeuppance in UFC right now. I mean, I don't know if it's, with all the wrestlers that are coming up strong right now, but I'm going to lean Latifi.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like his grappling more so than his wrestling. I think he's just going to really kind of, put some pressure up against the cage. Like I said, this is how I see it going. It's just going to be a lot more grappling than wrestling per se. But like I said, it's either going to go one of two ways for that. The next fight, though, is definitely one I have circled, because if you know me personally, you know my trinity of fighters I follow is Michael Bisping, Anthony Showtime Pettis, and Carlos Condit.
Yep.
Condit is returning to the cage, and he is fighting Michael Chiesa at welterweight. Now, this one is a step up for Chiesa. Chiesa, if you want to talk grappling and wrestling, he has got a great game.
Mm-hmm.
But you know where I'm going to be going with on this, because the Natural Born Killer is, like I say, he's in my top 3. So I will ask Pat to start this off if there's any feelings around the room about this one before I go off at the end.
I know better than to doubt you, Condon, all day.
I'm going to go Condon as well. Anytime a guy steps up in weight class, I always get hesitant.
Yeah, same. I'm in.
All right.
Yeah.
He's buying what you're selling.
I think everybody's a little worried because I'm going to go off if you go against like one of my 3 guys. This has happened before. No, but in all honesty, though, whenever a fighter steps up a weight, and Chiesa has been fighting at 155, and he's had very good success there. Him going up to 170, though, I think is a better move. I think for him, it's going to be an easier weight cut, and I think he's going to be definitely able to use his grappling and submission game a little better.
It's just tough to fight at that, though. You might have cut down, you might walk around at 170 or 180 and cut down to 155, but to be at 170 and then fight at 170, that's a whole, especially when your body's used to fighting at 155, that's a different energy resource there.
It is, and that's why I said I think it's going to be a little troublesome at first, but I think Chiesa is definitely going to be, he's definitely going to be ready for the fight. But I think, and I'm trying to say this without, doing too much with my
of a
heart.
homer.
Yeah, do with my heart instead of the head. Condit is a former world champion at this weight class. He knows what he's doing at this. His striking is always on par. Granted, he's now on the tail end of his career. It's just, as we say, there's one fighter that's undefeated, and that's Father Time. Condit has had his string of injuries over the past few years. Do I think that he's going to run through Chiesa? No. I don't think he's going to run through him, but I think he's going to do enough to get the win in the third round. I could see this being stopped by strikes in the third round.
Yeah.
That is my early gut prediction about this one. That I think Condit's striking is on par. He's definitely going to be amped up for this fight. And like I say, when he comes out and if he has that look like I'm going to absolutely run through somebody, look out, because that's usually it's game time. And, Chiesa's going to have to bring his A game. I think he will, and I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. This will actually be my prediction for fight of the night.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that far on the
I
limb.
can see that.
All right.
Next one up.
You got the co-main event in the women's featherweight division. You've got Chris Cyborg, the champion, versus Amanda Nunes.
Nunes is stepping up. Nunes is the women's bantamweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
This one will have fireworks.
Yeah.
This one is going to be all striking.
This is don't fall asleep. Get whatever food you need to before the fight. Get ready.
And don't blink.
No.
But if you ask my opinion, it's Cyborg until further notice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Cyborg is arguably the most dominant women's fighter in MMA history. Arguably. I know you can say Ronda Rousey. I will argue that, though. And I will say Chris Cyborg has been fighting at 145, 140 weight class as long as I can remember, and every challenger that has stepped up, Cyborg has found a way to knock out or end the fight early. I don't think I've ever seen a Cyborg decision fight.
I can't remember anything offhand
I
either.
can't remember one. I know Rousey had her run at 135, and she had a great run. I mean, arguably was the biggest star in MMA at the time, male or female. But Rousey has now moved on to the WWE after losing, a couple fights. Cyborg has still stayed at 145, and like I say, every challenger that has stepped up to that weight class has had the same result.
I'll say it's kind of like when John Jones was first coming up all those years ago. That he kept fighting and just winning against guys. That there wasn't a guy to a point where he's got John's number. He just needs to find the right formula. No, he was running through people. Cyborg the same way. You watch a Cyborg fight, people might make a few strikes against her, but you at no point are you like, oh yeah, they're beating Cyborg. No, Cyborg is winning handedly.
No, this one though, I think Nunes will be competitive in the fight.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be a runaway fight. Nunes will strike though. Nunes can definitely throw some hands. I just think moving up in the weight class, and like Coach was talking about last segment, it's a different thing when you move up a weight class. You're giving up a lot of your speed. You're giving up a lot.
It's just hard on your systems, especially from an aerobic standpoint. It's different fighting with weight on your system, on your body versus not.
Yeah, and I think just like I said, it's Cyborg's division until further notice. I'm not saying Nunes can't win, but I'm just saying if you're asking me for my prediction, I'm taking Cyborg third round stoppage TKO strikes. That is
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Cyborg ain't losing this.
Yeah, definitely not. But now we get to the main event.
Here we go.
The drama is over for this one because once they make weight and now they're going to head to the cage, this is where we get John Bones Jones, the local 607 fighter we all know, against Alexander Gustafsson in the rematch that we have been waiting for, at least this guy has, since their first fight.
I believe that was 2012?
I believe so, too. I don't have a computer in front of me, so I'm just going to go with your word on that.
It was a long time ago.
It was.
It was.
Many fights ago.
Many fights, many outside the cage incidents. Take it or leave it, whatever you want to define that whole mess as. I just want to get down to the fights. I'm going to pass it around the panel first of who you think and who you got.
I'm going to have to go with John just because, yes, John has had his incidents off the field, I guess you could say, outside the octagon, but all that time, Alexander has been fighting, and he's been going, and he's been having his fights. He's not, to this point, had anything outside of that John fight that's really like, wow, he's really stepped it up a notch. He's really upped his game. So unless he shows something during the card, I'm going to go with John.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, everybody thought Gustafsson would be the guy who would take over the division if anything happened to John, and he never did. So it definitely points to the fact that, maybe he wasn't ready, but that's so tough being out of the octagon for as long as John was to come back and fight. And I know that, guys have done it before where they've been out a long time, but I don't know. It's going to be so tough. I feel like it's going to go to a decision, and I just feel like John's probably going to pull it out by a hair. It might even be a split. I'll lean John just because I'm 607 loyal, but that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'm going with John. I mean, I think also, John's got a lot to prove that he still belongs there and stuff, after all this happened. So it's like kind of, this is a big fight for him.
Chip on the shoulder.
Yeah.
This is a huge fight for many, many reasons. We're going to take the whole outside the cage BS out of this because we've talked about it on past episodes. You can go download the past episodes and find out, the opinions of that. This fight has ramifications long stemming the light heavyweight division and the heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm.
For John, this has to be a redemption fight. John needs to be the John of old.
Yeah.
John needs to be the guy that was running through people. He beat Matt Hamill even though he was disqualified for throwing a 12-6 elbow that shouldn't have been done that way.
Yep.
He needs to be the guy that was, choking out Lyoto Machida, defeating Rampage. He needs to be the guy that steps up in those big fights and just dominates for him, for his legacy. Because obviously, everybody is talking about, we had to move the fight from LA or from Vegas to LA. Why do we have to do that? Oh, there was this, a questionable substance that is now haunting him. Take that outside the cage. John is still a fighter. Does John still have it after being off for as long as he's been? That's the question we don't know. And as for Gustafsson, his last fight was in May of 2017.
Right.
Against Glover Teixeira. Now, Gustafsson has had his share of fights too. He has been stepping up and he's been waiting for this fight. Because ever since he faced John Jones, he's faced some top quality challengers. He's faced Anthony Johnson. He's faced Daniel Cormier. Came up on the short side of the sticks there. But he defeated Jimmy Manawa. He defeated Glover Teixeira. He's been in there, but this has been the fight everybody's been waiting because he was the first one to take John to the limit. Whatever he had to do, he was the first one to push the pace. For Gustafsson, everybody is looking at John's return. Nobody's looking at him. It's how it is. If you look on any major sports media outlet, everybody's talking Jones. Who's really talking Gustafsson? Unless you're really following the MMA news. It's an honest fact. In my opinion, I am taking Gustafsson.
Okay.
All right.
I am going to say Gustafsson has been waiting for this fight for as long as he's been telling people that he won the original match.
He's been waiting longer than he would have liked to.
Yeah, I fully believe that. And that being said case, I think he's going to come in hungrier. I think John has to really put on a display, and I don't think he can do it against a guy that is equally as mashed up as Gustafsson is to him.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is that John's not coming in fighting somebody with shorter reach than what he normally is accustomed to fighting. I mean, this Gustafsson has the same reach as him, so that makes it a more challenging fight for John.
Oh, absolutely, without question. And I think for Gustafsson, this is going to be his statement fight. If he's been saying he should have been the champion way back when, and if he does not have a dominant performance against John, then all that talk and all that stuff that he's been building up inside since that first fight means nothing. For me, he's the hungrier fighter. Because for John coming back, this is a big deal too. And John needs to win this one outright, but he has a lot of stuff going on outside the cage that I think is going to be a little bit of a distraction. For Gustafsson, he has nothing to go in there, and he has arguably nothing to lose other than I've been waiting for this rematch, and I need to prove that this has been worth the wait.
Now, to counter that, though, John has everything to lose.
Oh, John has a lot to lose, too.
So there's a lot riding on it for both fighters.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
This fight has a lot to go as well. But I think for Gustafsson, as just on a fighter standpoint, this does. For John, because the fights that have been looming is another rematch against Daniel Cormier at heavyweight, a match against Brock Lesnar at heavyweight. There's been a lot of dream fight scenarios that have been getting thrown out since John was reinstated to fight. Is that going to be a distraction on him? And it can't be if he's going to go in there and defeat Gustafsson. He needs to worry about the guy that's in front of him,
he's
not the guy that's behind him.
Yeah, for sure. He's got to be there. He's got to be dialed in.
He's got to be there. Can he go in there and dominate? That's the question. And I honestly, from everything that's going on right now, I don't think he's going to pull it off.
Well, let me ask you, Ken, then. If it's a draw and it goes John's way, how does that make you feel? As far as those dreams fight and what's next for John?
As far as that goes, I think the fight that needs to happen is him and Lesnar. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think there's any draw for me personally to watch him and Cormier 3. I don't. Unless you want to do it at heavyweight, you can, but I don't. For me, I just don't see it. John's won outright the past 2 times they fought.
Right.
Is there really a sense to do a third one? It's hard to say. I mean, it's a great story. Don't get me wrong.
So even with a draw, you still feel that way?
Mm-hmm.
All right, how about a loss?
Oh, it's a loss, and then it all goes up in smoke. There's no point to it. If Gustafsson wins outright, let's say Gustafsson wins in the first round KO, hypothetically, all that dream fight scenario stuff is gone.
Oh yeah, John. And if he does, then John's done.
No, then
I mean, unfortunately, this is just the way that would be.
Then John would have to work his way back up to title contention.
Yeah.
And I mean, the mythos of him being the great fighter that he is gets a little tarnished, to say the least.
If he loses in the first round that way, I think literally John loses everything as far as the stature in the UFC.
Yeah. I mean, it's just there's so much to go with it. It's just there's a lot riding on it. That's why I say if John can put away all the outside distractions, he's got a shot, and he has a very good shot. But is his head in the fight? Is it fully focused on the guy that's in front of him instead of the one that he's looking behind him and looking past him? That's going to be the true telling point. For my guess, I'm going to say it's Gustafsson. It's going to be a close one. It's going to be in the 5th round, and I think Gustafsson wins. I think he takes it. I'm not sure if it's going to be a stoppage, but I definitely see him get in the fight. But let us know what you think. Saturday night's going to be a big fight. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. We want to know what's your thoughts on the whole UFC 232, drama, shall we say? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is the King of Lyle, Luke Visengard, Gladius 205 champion, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH. Pat, why don't you kick us off on that local minute?
Well, if we're doing local minute, we got to talk Binghamton Devils. Of course, last week I should say, they played the Toronto Marlies, the Bruins, and then the Utica Comets. They lost their Wednesday game against the Toronto Marlies 3-1. Won at home on Friday the 21st against the Bruins in a 6-3 win. And then they traveled on the road Saturday the 22nd to Utica to play the Comets and won 4-3. Switching over to this week I should say, they are at home on the 26th to play the Syracuse Crunch. They travel away the very next day to play the Utica Comets, and then Saturday they are away and play the Bellevue Senators. Return home for a New Year's Eve game, 6:05 against the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Penguins.
More information on that, binghamtondevils.com. Binghamton Bulldogs were also in action this past weekend with a big win against Elmira, 150-114. The Bulldogs are done for the season of the 2018, that is, but they'll be back strong. 2019, they return January 5th at Scranton, and they return home to the Dog Pound on January 12th versus Rock City. The Bulldogs are currently ranked 11th in the country out of, I believe, 143 teams. Mm-hmm. And the Bulldogs are no joke, 11-3, but don't let the standings fool you. They are definitely a fun team to watch. More information on that, binghamtonbulldogs.com. But that's not the only local subject we're going to talk about. We have Brian Wolff in from Fair City Fire. So, Brian, what is going on this weekend?
Yeah, we got to talk music, man. So I'll be playing a solo set at Ransom Steele Tavern on Friday night, 8:30 to 10. Actually, it won't be totally solo. My buddy RJ will be hopping in on drums on the last 3 songs of the set, so be fun, man.
All right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Going to be doing a little covers, going to be doing a little Fair City Fire.
Yeah, a lot of Fair City Fire stuff, man. Mostly original, but we'll definitely play some covers for sure.
Yeah. All right, I can't wait to go. I mean, we're going to be there in full effect, too. And definitely, if you can get down to Ransom Steele Tavern on Friday night, get there. 8:30 starts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 8:30.
So, since the last time you were on the show, what's been going on with Fair City Fire?
It's been a great year. We put out an album in April called Shake Your Bones.
Mhm.
It's available on Spotify and anywhere you buy music. So, go get yourself a copy of that or stream it, whatever you want to do. We went on tour. We played 17 cities on the Shake Your Bones tour, and including Appalachin, New York, Ransom Steele Tavern, baby.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
a great night out
Yeah.
there, too.
It was fun.
If you get the chance to see Fair City Fire, you need to go and check them out. We do Fair City Friday every Friday on
great.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you need to find more information on Fair City Fire, go check our Instagram page out at Ocho Duro Parlay on Instagram, and we have the hookup for that every Friday. Or we'll just go to faircityfire.com right now. You can do it. You can do that. You can check the Say It Loud podcast.
Yeah.
Brian is also a podcaster like the rest of us here.
Absolutely.
And
I love doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and break down and Say It Loud quick for us.
Yeah, so basically we kind of try to capture what the Austin music scene is, and we talk to basically different people that are involved, mostly artists that we like come on the show, but then sometimes nonprofits will come on and talk about what they do for the city. Like there's Health Alliance for Austin Musicians. It basically offers like health insurance for musicians in Austin, which is one of a kind, really. So it's just cool. Like we'll have people like that talk about what they do, and then it's great. I love doing it. So, and Matt Jones is a great host. Shout out to Matt.
Matt's great. Yeah, Matt's an awesome
Yeah.
guy. If you get a chance to meet him, as well with the rest of the band too, Brett, Joe, and Clint.
Yeah,
So definitely want to give a shout out to those guys.
absolutely.
They're very gracious to let us play their music every podcast you hear on the ODPH network. And we can't thank them enough. If you don't have Shake Your Bones, what are you waiting for? Download it while you're listening to the song or listen to the podcast. I mean, seriously, I'm going to start getting amped up about this. I don't want to get amped up about this. I want to save my energy for Friday night so I can start yelling and hear Brian, play some music. And he's like, finally, yo, can you stop doing this so I can get back to the song? I really appreciate this. He had to do it last show. There's no video of it, though, folks. Trust me. But we can't thank Brian enough for coming on the show. He's got to take off because he's going to be going to check out the Binghamton Devils tonight as we're recording. So if you catch him down there, maybe he'll get a selfie with you. You never know if you're lucky enough. Or just better yet, show up Friday at Ransom Steele Tavern, and he'll definitely hook that up for you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Brian, thank you again for coming on the show, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
That's Brian Wolff from Fair City Fire. Definitely check them out at faircityfire.com. And if you can get to the show Friday, Ransom Steele Tavern, get down there. Why don't you round those bases for us, Pat?
Well, we talked about it last week. The big NBA Christmas Day games came, and boy, did they deliver. Leading off the day, you had the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks. Milwaukee winning 109-95, 30 points, 10 boards, 3 assists from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Great game from him.
Well done, Pat.
Thank you.
Well done.
You had a phenomenal game from James Harden in the Houston Rockets. Oklahoma City Thunder game. Houston winning 113-109. 41 points, 6 boards, 7 assists from James Harden. Overall, great game from them. Most incredible game of the day, I would argue. The 76ers Boston Celtics game, which went to overtime and finished with Boston winning 121-114. Joel Embiid, 34 points, 16 boards, 2 assists. Kyrie Irving, 40 points, 10 boards, 3 assists. I tell you what, that game was incredible to watch the end of, and then just Philly falling apart in the worst way possible once overtime started.
Ugly fall apart. I mean, Kyrie was in his bag. That young man was going off.
Yeah.
Those shots to get it to overtime on Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Philly traded for him, was these moments, and it did not matter to Kyrie Irving.
No, and it was just one of those things where somebody from Philly, I don't even remember who it was, tried doing you remember a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, Curry in warm-ups did the Curry shot, the Curry challenge. Somebody tried actually doing one of those in a game or something, and I was like, what are you doing?
I mean, this trade for Philly right now, obviously they were missing Robert Covington and Sarek. They were missing them greatly because not having them come off the bench or start, that bench is depleted right now, especially with whatever's happening with Fultz. Philly is not a team that's on the comeuppance right now.
Right. Then you look at the Lakers-Warriors was the big marquee matchup of the day, with the Lakers winning 127-101. Of course, that not even being the big story. The big story being LeBron James feeling a pop in his groin area. He did tweet out today, though, that he dodged a bullet and he is day-to-day. So, he's going to take it easy for a couple of days and go from there. Nothing lost on them. But hey, congratulations to the Lakers in winning in Golden State on Christmas Day.
With LeBron leaving midway through the third.
Yeah.
But now, I guess here's my question about this: is the regular season now? Everybody's gonna be jumping on the Lakers bandwagon and saying,
sure. Oh, yeah.
Hey, more so than they already do.
"Oh yes, yeah, oh God, yes." Because now they beat Golden State
on Christmas Day.
And now it's like, oh yeah, now paint the chip, paint us in the finals. We're there.
I'm pretty sure a guy changed from a Golden State jersey to a Laker jersey midway through the game. I'm pretty sure I saw him in a Golden State jersey to start that game.
I will give you the over-under of 5. I'll say 5 of them might have.
I mean, honestly, the Lakers are a fun team to watch right now. Zubac is insane coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. 3 straight points with double-digit. 3 straight games with double-digit points. That's wild. Coming off the bench, too, beforehand,
Yeah, I mean, you had 19 points from Kyle Kuzma, 17 points from LeBron. Of course, he didn't even play the full game. 14 points from Brandon Ingram. Zubac, as you mentioned, 18 points. Just looking at everybody else, Rondo had 15 points off the bench. Great game for the Lakers.
Golden State is desperate for somebody to get bought out midway through after the trade deadline. They are desperate right now.
And I will say this, funniest moment of the day had to be this game where you had Rondo pulling, I believe it was Lonzo Ball aside and was kind of like telling him something. And Curry just like surreptitiously sneaks behind him, leans his head in, and just listens to what they're saying.
Yeah, it didn't help.
Didn't help. Didn't listen, but the fans' reaction behind him was priceless.
Well, yeah, Golden State, obviously, this is not the Golden State of old. They're definitely looking beatable. I'm not saying they're going to lose outright, but they're definitely looking beatable. Can LA do this in a 7-game series, though?
Well, now there's some skepticism whether Cousins even comes back this year. There's been a lot of follow-up issues with the heel post-workouts. That, I mean, I know that Instagram video just came out, but he came out and said right after that, there's mornings where he'll do full leg workouts, quote unquote, and there will be a lot of tenderness that next day that makes him a little nervous and hesitant to fully commit to it. So, if he doesn't come out and come play, this team is not going to be the same team for sure.
No,
and I definitely see somebody else winning out of the West.
No, and then closing out the day, you had the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trailblazers. Utah winning 117-96. 20 points, 5 boards, 4 assists from Damian Lillard. Rudy Gobert, 18 points, 14 boards, 1 steal.
You can't go wrong with that. NBA is now in full swing, and Christmas Day is always
the best day.
Always the best day for NBA action, bar none. Bar none. It would have been nice if the Knicks had won, but hey, we're gonna do it next. We're gonna do it next.
Fine.
We'll do it next year when we got Durant and Kyrie in town.
Give me all those L's.
Yep.
Take them all.
Exactly.
Oh, don't forget Zion.
I know. Once we get the team, I say next year will be next year. That's all I need to say for my round in the base. Coach, what you got?
All right. So finally, after a 3-week sabbatical, college football is back in the swing of things here with the college football playoffs happening Saturday.
Cheez-It Bowl. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. The Navy.com Poinsettia Bowl.
Yes.
Following that. We got Notre Dame playing Clemson at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. A lot of now controversy, unfortunately, as Lawrence, the defensive tackle for Clemson, is now out due to a suspension.
Oof.
So obviously Notre Dame, sorry. So hopefully, that will be a good game. And then obviously Alabama is facing off against Oklahoma, and Alabama off the layoff with Tua, and that defense, and that with that defense coming in there, it will be interesting to see what happens there.
Definitely some games to watch. I'm more intrigued about the Clemson one, given the news and everything else, than I was before.
Yeah, I mean the college, the playoff games. Obviously, we talked about before. Ken and I were picked well. I think that it's going to be made for good matchups. I mean, you got the Heisman, going up against the Alabama great defense. So it'll be definitely an interesting matchup from that standpoint. And then obviously Notre Dame and Clemson are a perfect 2-3 matchup, very even teams as far as what they do offensively and defensively. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I mean, the other bowls are great because, it's fun to see some of these matchups. Ohio State being in the Rose Bowl, and, you got Syracuse traveling down for the Orange Bowl. So, there's fun matchups to have. So it'll be interesting, but the college football playoffs are definitely the best of the overall games.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and obviously when we're talking playoffs, it's always a good time.
Playoffs?
Exactly. As we are now going to be switching to the Locks and Leaps because this is the final week of the season. Pad has clinched the Locks and Leaps Invitational 2018.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I tried to suggest a double or nothing. I got shot down.
Nope.
All right, I tried. I got voted down.
Locked down.
Pad wants that shirt from Thirsty Threads Inc.
Yeah, I do.
So hit us off. What you got for your locks and leaps?
Well, we're going to take a look at my lock. Looking at the Carolina Panthers, New Orleans Saints game. Currently, New Orleans is a 9-point favorite. Now, I know what people might be thinking. They've got everything locked down. Do they really need to play their starters? And, well, I can agree with you. Yeah, they might not to. I think Sean Payton is going to want to keep the old mojo rolling, the old coffee flowing. Want to keep everybody on their pace and everything going. Not really change a beat. Not really have them get off a step just because, we're going to have you off a week just so we can rush you. I think they'll play a good significant portion of the game, but I think New Orleans is going to win this game handedly. Switching over to my leap, I'm going to look at, also from that same division, you've got the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Currently, Tampa Bay is a 1-point favorite. I think Atlanta, coming off their game last week, they might find their mojo a little bit and win back-to-back weeks and beat Tampa Bay.
Fair enough. Coach, what you got?
Well, since it's wrapped up, I'm just going to go for it here. I'm just going to sling the guns here. My leap is going to be the Cleveland Browns going into Baltimore, winning a decisive Week 17 game.
And helping Pittsburgh.
Behind Baker Mayfield. Let's go.
Helping Pittsburgh.
Wow.
My lock is going to be, I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick the game to go to the playoffs, and I'm going Colts over the Titans on the road. Andrew Luck, Quentin Nelson, run behind that left side, score touchdowns all day long.
Wash, rinse, repeat.
Boom.
You know, since Sound Guy Galore JR is not here, and obviously he will be back in 2019 at some point, we're going to have his locks and leaps for him this week. For his lock,
Oh, no.
he is taking the Vikings
Infinity.
-4 over the Bears. I'm not going to say the score that he would probably say because...
Bold strategy, Cotton.
Yes. And for that leap, he's going to take the Tennessee Titans just because
let's go.
Trash talk.
He would do that.
Because if JR was here, he would have been like all over this.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would have had something else, and then as soon as you said that, the Colts on Sunday night to win the division, he would have switched instantly.
Let's go.
He would, in a heartbeat. Shout out to Sound Guy Galore JR. He will be back in 2019 on the ODPH. All right, so for my leap, I was going to take the Browns, and you know what? I think I'm going to go ride with you.
Do it. Let's go.
I'm gonna
hop
go.
on that bandwagon. There's plenty of space.
In Baker, we trust.
That's right.
Because I was almost going to go with the Giants and Cowboys because it's a pick 'em.
It's a pick 'em, yeah.
But I can't do it in good conscience.
Doesn't even mean anything anymore. Screw it.
No, it doesn't.
No. Forget that game.
But there's one game that I'm picking as my lock.
Okay.
Because I still haven't forgotten when Charles Clay dropped that ball in the end zone.
Oh, boy.
This is the rematch.
Oh, boy.
It's upstate New York, Buffalo Bills.
Geez, stop throwing things.
I'm serious. This is why I try keeping it hype. You play Fair City Fire, I get hype.
3.5 points.
3.5 point favorites. Josh Allen, where are you? You need to come through clutch on this.
200 passing yards, 100 rushing yards.
Exactly.
Michael Vick performance up in here.
Yeah.
17-10 win. Calling it now.
Ooh.
Giving the shot. We are not scared of Miami. We're going to ruin some playoffs for somebody because nobody circles those wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and I haven't forgotten when we lost a very close game in Miami, and I'm not giving up on this one.
Say, wait, whose fault was that again?
We don't need to get into it right now because I don't want to get too amped up because I have to close the show.
Okay.
Because I have to thank everybody for listening to the ODPH in 2018. It's been a great year. We can't say thank you enough for giving us the time to entertain you with our sports talk on the entertainment show, talking movies, TV, comics, Spotlight Edition, talking music. We got to thank our bands that give us the music, Fair City Fire, Crimson Brethren, Floodlands, and Rye Bread. Thank you guys so much for everything you do. To the panel, thank you for making it an awesome year, and can't wait to continue the success of the ODPH going into 2019. For Sound Guy Galore JR, who will be returning at some point. For Coach Duffy.
On New Year's, avoid the bookings, my beloved.
For Padawan J.
Do your job.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. # ODPH. We'll see you next time.